Everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are back today with another CSFL show, but today we are going to be purely focusing on the draft lottery as we are nearing towards the end of the season. The Super Bowl is obviously coming up this evening between the New York Jets and the LA Rams. But obviously, before we get to that stage, we have a draft lottery that we have to get through and announce and see who is going to have the number one pick in the 2019 lottery this year in the draft. Joined today it's not just myself, but we've also got Palm, the Cardinals GM. Palm, great to have you on the show. Welcome back. How do you feel your season has been, and what's your aims in this off season?
It was a rough year. I mean, we did a lot better than last year, but still room for improvement, which we're hoping we can do with this offseason. I don't know if we're gonna find a quarterback this year yet, but we're gonna have to find some other way to get some W's this year.
Yeah, I mean it was a tough situation, the Cardinals, when you picked them up, but certainly on the upward trajectory, I would certainly say, going into the off season. But unfortunately, obviously, you've performed well enough so that you're not actually in the draft lottery this year. But looking at the teams that we have here, who do you think most needs probably a number one pick? And what do you think some of these teams are possibly looking for at the top end of this draft?
Well, I would say the Chargers are looking pretty, and they got the best odds, so they're kind of crazy for now. But I think the Cleveland Browns could use the number one pick more than anybody. They're gonna need a quarterback. They got a nice running back with Freeman. He's got 1,500 yards last year. Maybe a big game receiver. They didn't get a 1,000-yard receiver last year. Joey Bosa, oh my God, I didn't realize he had 12 sacks last year. He was just drafted like last year, the year before that, wasn't
he? He was, yeah. He was one of the top picks from a couple of seasons ago. Yeah, I mean, we can all talk about the Chargers, who have had a fantastic season and probably the least team that requires number one pick, obviously having the best odds. I mean, I think the Buccaneers, the 49ers, the Browns have all been sort of struggling down the bottom just because of different aspects of talent that they probably need. Kansas City Chiefs have been certainly up and down throughout the seasons and had a fantastic season a couple of years ago where they almost took the division away, I think, from the Broncos at the time. But obviously had a bit of a downward year this year. So I think there's four teams that I think are desperately needing the pick. I think if the Chargers land the number one pick, which they are odds on to do, they will certainly be laughing and probably cementing themselves as a contender going into next year without even doing anything this offseason.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Buffalo I'm sure they wish they didn't trade that pick because
they're... Yeah. So before we kind of get in and we talk about the pick and who's going to go number one and what the order is, I just wanted to give everyone a bit of a reflection on how the lottery works now. So for those of you who've been here previously, we used to have a full lottery for all of the teams that were outside of the playoffs, and we used to have a full process for doing that. We went away from that last year based on GM feedback, and we focused it down to just the bottom 5 teams and a certain percentage or certain number of lottery balls per team. And basically what that means is that nobody in this 5 can go worse than pick number 5, and they all have a chance at landing the number one pick. So the way we do it is we obviously have certain odds and a number of balls for each team. Obviously, the Chargers in number one will have more opportunity and more percentage to win number one than, for example, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are the 5th pick. So that's how it works. We'll click the generate order in a second, and we'll go through the different picks from 5 all the way up to 1, and we'll just quickly talk about them. But yeah, best of luck to every team that's in this draft lottery. Let's see who is going to land the number one pick and go from there. So we will select the generate order button. And here is our 5 picks for this year. So, Palm, do you think? I guess the question we want to ask: do we think Tampa Bay have jumped up from pick number 5, or do you think they're still going to be ending up with this pick?
I think they're going to jump up at least 1 or 2 spots.
Okay, let's find out. So, pick number 5 is going to Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay have stayed where they are. I mean, Palm, your reflection on Tampa Bay. Obviously, they were 4-11 this year. Been really struggling sort of down the bottom end of the National South for a little while now. Obviously, a tough situation, similar to probably what you took over with the Cardinals. How do you feel their team's progressing, and what sort of things do you think they would be looking for with pick number 5?
I think they're on the right trajectory. They're headed in the right direction. I think pick wise, I don't think they're gonna go quarterback because they got Winston last year. They could use a. Let's see. Hang on, I gotta see something. I want to see what they got going on in the draft here.
Yeah, I mean, my reflection with Tampa is I agree. I don't think they're going to go with a quarterback. I think Winston is sort of the guy they're trying to develop into that position, and he certainly showed some good signs of performance last year. I think for me, if I was Tampa, I'm probably looking at receiver. I would like to move Hernandez away from the receiving sort of option to a tight end, maybe flex him across those two positions. And outside of him, at sort of in terms of receiving options, they don't have a lot there. So for me, that's probably something I think that Tampa are going to focus on.
Yeah, get some weapons around Jameis Winston. That'll definitely
absolutely with that arm as well. They need some receivers and some speed there as well. I would suggest they probably would be looking for.
Absolutely, that's a good safe bet, I think.
Okay, let's move on to pick number 4. And let's see who is going to land this pick, and if there is a jump at pick 4, because there was not a pick 5. So number 4 is going to Kansas Chiefs. So Kansas are taking the number 4 pick. They were obviously the number 4 pick anyway, so we haven't had any jumps so far in this lottery. I mean, the Chiefs 4-12 last year. As I said, opening up this, they had a fantastic season a couple of years ago where I think they maybe won 10 or 11 games. They were on a real great run of form. Obviously, Bradford's still around. I assume he probably will give it another go for another season, being 31. But outside of obviously the quarterback position for Kansas, Palm, I mean, what sort of things do you think they should be looking for?
I think they're going to be aiming defense because they've got some good offensive pieces with Charles and Bradford, like you mentioned, but their defense is weak. They need help there.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, they were I think they maybe were the last ranked defensive team in terms of points scored against this season. So defense is certainly one of the main issues for them and sort of underperforming this year. Looking across the board, I mean, for me, I think they've got some nice pieces there. I would probably be looking at a safety or a linebacker, if I had to guess, is what they'd be looking for on defense. I think, the front defensive line is pretty solid. The backs are pretty solid, but certainly a safety and a linebacker is where they've got some talent. That's some major talent issues they probably need to address.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't realize their defensive line it's pretty stacked. My God, but yeah, their secondary.
Houston and Crick are certainly, and Cole are certainly nothing to be worried about, or even Wilkerson, who was a top draft pick several seasons ago. I just think that linebacking core, I mean, for me, if it was me, I'd probably be looking at a safety. I think that's where they've got a bit of an issue. But outside of knowing exactly who probably will be in the top 5, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, their linebacking core is relatively young. They could still develop, but their safety and cornerback situation is not pretty.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, the linebacking and safety is for me would be the main thing, because they were one of the worst teams in terms of rush defense last year. Their pass defense was still pretty bad, but their rush defense was a massive issue for them. I mean, they were bottom ranked 2 team in terms of yards given in terms of rushing. So I'd certainly be looking at that if I was Kansas. So Kansas have retained the number 4 pick. We haven't had any jumps yet, Palm. Do you think the San Francisco 49ers will jump up from pick number 3 next?
Seeing how they're in my division, I hope not, but we'll see what happens.
Let's see. So pick number 3 is going to the LA Chargers. Ooh, okay. So the Chargers have dropped down from 1 to 3. Your reflections on that, Palm? I mean, we talked at the beginning that the Chargers are in a fantastic position anyway. They are one of the premier teams in the AFC. Are they going to be too worried about this in this draft?
I mean, top 3 picks still. They're going to find something that's going to help them out. I mean, I'm more surprised that Cleveland and now the 49ers are both going to advance at least one spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm looking at it from the Chargers' perspective, they've already got the likes of Goff, so they don't have any issue there. I mean, they've got some great receiving talent. For me, it's probably, they could go anyway. I think that's the flexibility of the Chargers. So they do have some really good talent across the board. So I think they will be fine. And I think actually pick 3 probably suits them a little bit better than pick 1 because there might be someone who maybe drops out of that top 3, or they might be able to take a bit more of a risk with someone who might be a bit of a better fit for them than maybe if they were number 1 and maybe locked into a certain player, for example.
Yeah, I agree. With their division, I mean, they only have to really worry about Denver because Oakland and Kansas City obviously are a little rough right now too. But yeah, they're sitting pretty, man. 3rd pick, they could, like you said, they can take a reach here on a guy that they're more high on than others, and be real happy with that pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm unfortunate for the Chargers, but I still think they're whatever happened in this, they're always going to be in a great situation. So what that leaves is it leaves us with the possibility that the San Francisco 49ers are going to land the number 1 overall pick, or it could end up going to the Cleveland Browns. Palm, should we just go straight in and find out who gets the number 1 pick at this stage, and then we'll come back and do some reflection on pick 1 and 2 together?
Yeah, let's dive in. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. So pick number 1 is going to the Cleveland Browns, which means the San Francisco 49ers are taking the 2nd pick in this 2019 CSFL draft.
Well, Cleveland, I said, needed the pick, and there it is. They got it.
Absolutely. You certainly said that at the beginning, that the Browns were the team that most needed the pick. Let's talk about them then to begin with. It's been well coveted throughout the league that the Browns are probably desperate for an elite quarterback. There's question marks as to whether there is one available in this year's draft. But I mean, I guess, Palm, what's your reflection on the Browns? Are they still going to go die-hard quarterback at number 1, or do you feel they're going to probably look at other weaknesses that they have?
I mean, yeah, quarterback is definitely a major weakness. They've got, Cousins, he's solid, but I don't think he's got the arm that they're looking for their offense. They like to go downfield, and with the receiver like Jacoby Ford, they're gonna need a big arm quarterback. So we're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, Cousins is not a terrible quarterback. I mean, he's probably not the type of quarterback that you'd want to probably be leading you as a contender, but he's probably more than good enough to get you into that playoff hunt. I mean, looking at other guys sort of projected around the top 10, obviously there's a lot of a mix of defensive ends that are being projected at this moment in time and tackles and things. The Browns are pretty much okay in that sort of position. You'd probably be looking again at maybe receiving options, is what I would probably say, or maybe possibly delving into some of that offensive line if it is really as talented as it's being projected at the moment. As whilst they have some decent tackles at the moment in the likes of Taylor and Britton, they could easily shift them across the line and maybe use that. But it's probably the draft that the Browns did not want to have the number 1 pick, in terms of they'd have loved to have had the number 1 pick in the Goff, Prescott and then Wentz draft. But congratulations to the Browns. I'm sure they're going to be eagerly waiting to see who they're going to take at number 1.
I agree. I mean, I kind of like their offensive line, and if it's a deep draft, they might be able to wait to the 2nd round to get a solid lineman. And I like Freeman. He's only 26. He looks like he's the guy for them. But I don't know. Maybe a big game receiver if they can find one. But
maybe. I mean, that's always a good thing to pick up as a top young talented receiver. Certainly a good thing to add, even if you haven't maybe got the quarterback you actually want to land and want to build with for the longer term. Adding that to Cousins is a talent he already has will certainly help anyway. So let's move on to the 49ers, who have taken the number 2 pick, obviously jumping up as well. A lot of the 49ers game plan, I imagine this offseason will depend on whether Big Ben decides to retire at the age of 36.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, it's a team that I've always found really interesting because they've got some really, really good talent, but seem to never ever transition it into wins. I mean, they're 3-13 this year, but I mean, Palm, what's your reflection on the 49ers and pick number 2?
I mean, you're right. They've got some quality players on this team, but it's not translating on the field. Boy, yeah, Ben Roethlisberger, 36. You're going to want to replace him eventually. At least find somebody to bring into the fold. But running back, Javid Best looks great. I like their offensive line. Tight end's a little weak. Wide receiver's pretty solid. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know why they're losing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting. I thought it was going to be a very interesting offseason for the 49ers anyway, just because they are probably losing 3/4 of their entire roster this offseason just because they're out of contract. They're going to end up with about 100 and something million to spend in the offseason. So maybe this is a complete teardown of the 49ers now they've landed number 2.
That's probably a good route to go. I mean, I don't want to see it happen being in my division, but I mean, maybe that's the route they go.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, congratulations to the Cleveland Browns for landing the number 1 overall pick, and commiserations to the Chargers for dropping down from 1 to 3. But that concludes our draft lottery for this season. For the 2019 draft, we will certainly see how the Super Bowl plays out later on this evening. The league awards are due to be landing onto the Discord server imminently. But Palm, thank you very much for joining to just run us through this top 5 for the draft.
Thanks for having me. And who do you think's going to win in the Super Bowl? The Rams or the Jets?
I'm going to hold that until I'm presenting the Super Bowl later. I'll leave you hanging on that one. What I will say is it's really fantastic that 2 new teams and 2 GMs who have not won it before are in the Super Bowl, and it just shows that if you can just get a grasp of talent and strategy, that in this game anyone can kind of win. It's just about time, effort, and trying to put it all together. So it's fantastic. We will see who takes home that coveted banner. It's also fantastic from a wide perspective that the banner does not need to be shipped outside of the US, so that will save us a little bit of a penny for the league. So yeah, we'll see who wins. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Palm, who's your pick for the Super Bowl?
I'm rooting for the Rams because he's in my division. I'd love to see them pick it up for our division. But the Jets, they're steamrolling people right now. We'll see what happens. Should be a good game.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a great game. And we'll be back in, this evening, this afternoon for CST time, I believe, to see who wins. And obviously after that, we'll be into the off-season, into the draft. But congratulations to the Cleveland Browns for taking the number 1 overall pick for this 2019 draft over the off-season. And we'll be back to talk about that, I'm sure, as we go through, talk about draft, talk about Super Bowl, talk about awards, everything coming. But Palm, best of luck with your off-season with the Cardinals. I'm sure you'll continue to take them from strength to strength.
I hope so. And same for you. Good luck.